10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the John DeVito Show. Happy St. Patrick's Day. We'll get this thing going in a minute.
The pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and all the roses falling. It's you, must go and I must bide. But come ye back when summer's in the meadow, or when the valley's hushed and white with snow. I'll be here in sunshine or in shadow. Oh, Danny boy, I love you so. But when ye come and all the flowers are dying, if I am
Danny boy,
as dead I well may be, you'll come and find.
Is anybody out there getting drunk yet
the
today?
place where I am lying.
I am not.
And kneel and say and Ave there for me. And I shall hear the soft you tread above me, and all my grave will warmer, sweeter be. For you will bend and tell me that you love me, and I shall sleep in peace until you come to me.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Happy St. Patrick's Day and welcome to the John DeVito Show. I see Glenn's comment right away. It's 9 a.m. Too soon for drinky. Not in Boston, I can tell you that. Today is a little bit different because, again, Boston's kind of shut down due to COVID. But I spent many days, St. Patrick's Day in Boston, getting into those bars at 8 o'clock in the morning. That's when they open. And trust me when I tell you, by 9 a.m. in Boston on St. Patrick's Day, in a typical year, the bars are full of people. They're getting drunk. And literally, there were many times that on St. Patrick's Day, by like noontime, I'd be ready to pass out. So in St. Patrick's Day, Boston, it's a big thing. COVID's kind of thrown that stuff off. Over the last couple of years, they've shut down the St. Patrick's Day parade in Boston now 2 years in a row, and it is such a big tradition in the Boston area. Oh yeah, Boston folk definitely have a bad rep. This city has a lot of Irish pubs, a lot of bars, and in most years from November to April, you literally can't go outside. So you spend your time in the pubs getting drunk, and St. Patrick's Day in Boston is just a wild holiday. So I started the song off with Oh Danny Boy, and I figured I'd play another Irish song or two before we get into the meat of the show. I'll probably get in trouble for publishing this one, but I don't care. I love this song. So let's kind of play this bad boy. Yeah. Now this is Boston and St. Patrick's Day. I won't, I promise.
I'm a summer pain, and I lost my leg. Climbing up the top sails, I lost my leg. Shipping up to Boston. Shipping up to Boston. Shipping up to Boston.
Robert.
Ship it out to Boston. Ship it out to Boston. Ship it out to Boston. Ship it out to
Thank you, Robert. All right, that was the Dropkick Murphys. And there goes another song coming up. We're going to shut that bad boy down. So that was the Dropkick Murphys, Shipping Out to Boston. Huge song in Boston around St. Patrick's Day. And you can imagine that any Irish bar that is open today in the Boston area will be playing that song today. Yeah, I see your comment in there. It is not Ailstorm. It is, they are the Dropkick Murphys. They perform in Boston all the time. And anyone that is in the Boston area has seen them live someplace in a bar or whatever. They play everywhere. So excellent band. And, you know, you've all seen my name, okay? I run the John DeVito Show. You see the vowel at the end of my name. I am Italian, no doubt, by name. However, recently, as I was saying on the Old Man Show, Chit Chat with the Old Man, I am actually 60% Irish and Scottish. We recently did the Ancestry DNA tests, and I found out that I was more Irish than I am Italian. I'm only a very small part Italian. I think it was something like 9 or 10%, and I'm 60% Irish. So, you know, I kind of wondered. I always enjoyed a good Guinness. I always enjoyed going out to the Irish pubs in Boston on St. Patrick's Day. And I know the people in Boston are pretty bummed today that it's not your typical St. Patrick's Day. But I'll tell you, if you want to have a good time, put this in your books right now. COVID, I assume this year will be over. I'm hoping. And I would book your flight to Boston for next year, St. Patrick's Day. Get to the bars at 8 a.m. That's when they open. And you will be sure to have a crazy time in Boston after we haven't had two St. Patrick's Days in a row in this area, because St. Paddy's Day is just crazy in the city. You have no idea. It's over the top. So can you confirm it said Irish pubs had holes in the walls? I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I can say that some of the Irish pubs are holes in the walls, but there's some really nice ones here as well in Massachusetts. So, yeah, I'm excited. You know, happy St. Patrick's Day. It was always a big day for my grandmother. Her name was Catherine Brennan, so she had a fine Irish name. And I remember, you know, St. Patrick's Day for her was always a very big thing, something that she celebrated and would send us cards. And it was funny. She would send us like these little St. Patrick's Day buttons. She used to wear buttons all the time on her coats and her clothes for St. Patrick's Day. And that was something that she was definitely a big fan of. Now, I see Roast Bastard Glenn talking about glory holes. Now, that kind of scares me, the avenue we're going down there. Now, I've never partaked in any type of glory hole, but I see glory holes, angry holes. They are holes nonetheless. Yeah, I've never seen a glory hole in any type of Irish pub in Boston, but that's not to say they don't exist. And, I try to avoid places that have glory holes because I try to keep my junk where it belongs, down below, for me. So anyway, welcome to the John DeVito Show. Got a bunch going on in the world right now. I wanted to kind of give some props to, St. Patrick's Day before I got started in talking about some other things that I had planned for today. And it was funny, as I was kind of researching a little bit, talking about St. Patrick's Day and kind of, trying to learn a little bit more about it because, of course, now I am 60% Irish. I looked up an article and I was looking about, who St. Patrick was and some of the things he was known for. There's an article I found that basically was talking about these are 10 things you need to know about the real St. Patrick. So I figured, what the hell? We'll read these off on the air and just kind of talk about this a little bit. So here we go. On March 17th, people around the world will celebrate St. Patrick's Day by parading in green hats, sporting images of shamrocks and leprechauns. And I'll tell you, leprechauns, those creepy little bastards, they kind of freak me out as it is anyway. I'm kind of glad they aren't real. But they're tiny, grinning, fairy little men pinned to their lapels. Patrick's picture will adorn greeting cards, an aged, bearded bishop in flowing robes, grasping a bishop's staff and glaring at a coil of snakes. The icon refers to Patrick's legendary miracles in which he is said to have performed and prayed all over the Irish landscaping. So here are the 10 things. They go into the list of 10 things, and these come from St. Patrick's own writings of early accounts in his career. So here are 10 things you may not know about St. Patrick. Now, this is kind of a shocker. Patrick was not Irish. Patrick was born around 450 AD, just when Roman troops withdrew from Britain. His father was a gentleman and a Christian deacon who owned a small estate in a place called Bamavem Tabachire, I guess it is. I can't really pronounce it. Scholars aren't sure where this place was. It was probably on the west coast around Bristol, near the southern border of modern Wales in England. So Patrick wasn't Irish. That's kind of number one on the list. Number two, Patrick was a slave. Irish slave traders sailed the waters off of the same coast, and one day they came ashore to capture the teenage Patrick and his neighbors to sell back to Ireland. Patrick spent 6 years tending sheep in the west of Ireland. So that's number two on the 10 things you did not know about St. Patrick. Number three, Patrick heard voices. Now, that's kind of good to hear. It's good to hear I'm not the only one that hears voices. Of course, for me, it's my wife, telling me, pick up the trash, you're stupid, things like that. So Patrick heard voices. I hear voices too, but it's just my wife kind of ragging on me. So kind of a little bit of a different thing. But anyway, the voices he heard. So when chasing sheep on the hills when he was a slave, Patrick prayed 100 times a day in all kinds of weather. It paid off. One night, a mysterious voice called to him saying, "Look, your ship is ready." Patrick knew he wasn't hearing sheep. The time was right for his escape, and that led to his escape. Now, now here's my favorite one. Glenn, this is right up your alley. Hopefully you're still here. Number four. I don't know how I'm going to read this without laughing. All right. Patrick refused to suck a man's breasts. Okay, there it is. It's out there. Patrick made his way to Ireland's east coast and sought passage on a ship bound for Britain. The captain, a pagan, didn't like the look of him and demanded that Patrick suck his breasts. And apparently there was a ritual gesture symbolizing acceptance of the captain's authority. Patrick refused, as I would as well. Instead, he tried to convert the crew. For some reason, the captain still took him aboard. So I guess the captain demanded that St. Patrick suck his breasts. He refused. And I guess probably the captain had some respect for him at that point and let him go on for the trip. So, yeah, I don't know about that one. So that was number four on the list. Again, Patrick refused to suck a man's breasts. I'm glad to hear that St. Patrick had some morals and decided to kind of say, you know what, instead of taking the boat ride, I'd rather swim. All right, number five, Patrick had visions. One night, Patrick dreamed that Satan tested his faith by dropping an enormous rock on him. He lay crushed by its weight until dawn broke, and he called out, "Helios, Helios," the name of the Greek sun god. The rock disappeared. Patrick took it as kind of an epiphany. He later wrote, "I believe I was helped by Christ the Lord." Patrick had other peculiar visions too. Back home in Banninvern, he was visited by an angel with a message from the Irish. "We beg you, holy boy, to come and walk again among us." He trained as a bishop and went back to Ireland. All right, number six on the list of the 10 things you probably do not know about St. Patrick. Okay, Patrick did something unmentionable. I'm not sure if he was searching out glory holes in Irish bars in Boston. I'm hoping that's not the case. But years into his mission, someone, it seems, told a dirty secret about Patrick to his fellow bishops. They brought up against me after 30 years something I have already confessed, something I had done one day. Rather, in 1 hour when I was young, he wrote, Patrick did not tell us what he did. Worship idols, engage in a forbidden sexual practice, take gifts from converts. Whatever it was, Patrick retrospectively understood his zealous Irish mission to be penance from his youthful sins. When he spread Christianity around Ireland, he was often beaten, put in chains, or extorted. Every day, there is a chance that I will be killed or surrounded or taken into slavery, he complained. So, Glenn, I'm telling you, you may have called it. Maybe Patrick was in Boston back in the day and hitting some of those old Irish pubs, glory holes in the bathrooms. Who knows what he did, but we never knew or found out what that secret was. But it seems like that St. Patrick had some dark secrets. And I see if Chris is here. Happy birthday, Chris. I'm very happy that you stopped in, and happy birthday to you, my friend. All right, number 7, Patrick dueled with Druids. 2 centuries after his death, Irish believers wanted more exciting stories of Patrick's life than the saint's own account. One legend written at 700 AD described Patrick's contest with native religious leaders and Druids. The Druids insulted Patrick, trying to poison him, and engaged them in magical duels, much like students of Harry Potter's Hogwarts, in which they competed to manipulate the weather, destroy each other's sacred books, and survive raging fires. When one druid dared to blaspheme the Christian god, however, Patrick sent the druid flying into the air. The man dropped to the ground and broke his skull. So it sounds like he was a badass man. Wow, crazy stuff, man. So Patrick made God promise. So another legend from around the same time tells how St. Patrick fasted for 40 days atop a mountain, weeping, throwing things, and refusing to descend until an angel came on God's behalf to grant the saints outrageous demands. These included the following: Patrick would redeem more souls from hell than any other saint. Patrick, rather than God, would judge Irish sinners at the end of time, and then the English would never rule Ireland. All right, a couple more things on the list. Still, my favorite is him refusing to suck a man's breasts. I'm still kind of freaked out and glad he made that decision. Now, this is kind of one that I wouldn't even think of. Patrick never mentioned a shamrock. You hear so much in the Irish, tradition about shamrocks, four-leaf clovers, all those type of things. He never mentioned it. So none of the early stories featured the shamrock or Irish seamrog, which is a word for common clover, a small plant with 3 leaves. Some have 4, as you all know. Yet children in Catholic Church still learn that Patrick used the shamrock as a symbol of the Christian Trinity, where he preached to the Irish. So apparently there was a bullshit story. So St. Patrick never talked about a shamrock, never talked about a 4-leaf clover, none of those things. Patrick did not drive the snakes out of Ireland. So again, there was another big story that St. Patrick did a miraculous thing where he was a snake charmer and he drove snakes out of Ireland. And obviously that was not the case. Hey, Cummings, what's going on? So anyway, that is my list of top 10 things you probably don't know about St. Patrick's. And still, Cummings, I'm going to read this one again just for you since you came in. This is literally number 4 on the list, and I couldn't get through it without laughing the first time. These are 10 things you don't know about St. Patrick. Patrick refused to suck a man's breast. So here it is. Patrick made his way to Ireland's east coast and sought passage on a ship bound for Britain. The captain, a pagan, didn't like the look of him and demanded that St. Patrick suck his breasts, a ritual gesture symbolizing acceptance of the captain's authority. Patrick refused, thank God. Instead, he tried to convert the crew. For some reason, the captain still took him aboard. Wow. Yep, that is something that apparently happened with St. Patrick. All right. So I've done my fill of St. Patrick stuff today. We're 18 minutes into the show. Didn't expect to talk for that long. Played 2 great songs so far regarding St. Patrick's Day and Irish music. Now we're going to get into one of the things I was planning on. Yeah, it could be right, Glenn. That sounds like it might have been my ancestor. If it had been me, I could see myself doing that. Be like, hey, buddy, you want to come on my boat? No problem. We'll give you a ride. I'm going to take off my shirt, expose the moobs, go to town, baby. I could see myself doing that without a doubt. So anyway, we are going to shift a little bit. Yes, that's a possibility too, Cummings. Again, but for me, for whatever we talk about in the show, that doesn't do it for me. If it had been a woman, definitely I would have gone that route. But yeah, it's just, the whole male thing just doesn't do it for me. If it did, I'd be great. Less drama in my life. Find someone my size. I could double my wardrobe and we'd be all good. But, it is what it is. So, all right. Hey, one of the things I was going to talk about, and I'm kind of combining 2 shows here a little bit. I wanted to talk a little bit about our good friend, Joe Biden. I know that some of you don't love politics, but these things have to be talked about. So I needed to weave this into my show. Eric, if you want to call in, Jeremy, if you want to call in, please, join the panel. Anybody else that wants to join me, come in. I have some things I want to talk about. And I think we all need to start talking about these things that are happening in this country, because if we don't, I think we're going to be in a lot of trouble. So luckily for Glenn, he doesn't have to deal with all this American bullshit. He's up there in Canada, kind of doing his thing. Yeah, you never know, Cummings. It could be the case. I could see him seeking out the glory holes in Irish pubs in Boston, our good friend Dementia Joe. So anyway, Joe Biden, before we get into even talking about him looking to take away our Second Amendment rights, which is on the docket right now, let's talk about the crisis at the border. And what's killing me right now is we are seeing literally, and I saw the report last night on the news, we are seeing 6,000 illegal immigrants coming to the border every day, looking to get into this country. 6,000. At the worst we had under Donald Trump, it was 800 a day. So if you remember back when, Dementia Joe was campaigning, he was talking about, Trump is ripping children out of the arms of parents and throwing them in cages. He's an evil man, and on and on and on and on. And we were deporting all of these people back to the country. We were telling them point blank, you're not welcome here. You need to go home. And we were sending them home. There are hundreds of children coming to the border without parents, and they're looking to come into our country, and we are allowing them in. So now we have a crisis on the border like we have never seen before. And again, the press is not reporting on this at all. I saw several reports last night on some of the Republican channels talking about how, they complained about Trump having kids in cages. Biden, of course, calls them containers, but they are so overwhelmed by the number of children they have now at the border. The children are literally sleeping on the floor. They haven't eaten in days, and they haven't been let outside. So these kids are trapped indoors in these containers. They're not eating. They're starving. They're sleeping on the floor, and they are not being even let outside to play or anything to that effect. And when you look at the whole thing, I mean, we've got these tight regulations in this country right now about COVID. And, you have to wear the masks. If you travel out of state, you've got to quarantine. You've got to do all these different things. But the bottom line is, if you're coming over the border and you're illegal, you don't have to do any of these things. You can come over the border and have COVID. You don't have to wear a mask. You're exposing thousands of different people to your disease. And if they do find a way to process you from the southern border, you're going to a sanctuary city and just being sent out all across the country. So, people who are abiding by the law right now still have their businesses shut down. Their jobs aren't back to normal. And I see Cummings making the comment down in the chat. What's up, Tron Cat? Welcome to the show, brother. 67% of all immigrants have been detained and tested positive for COVID, according to Newsmax, which is obviously kind of a right-wing news outlet. But, these are the only places that are reporting these things. So we have this crisis at the border that is absolutely epic. We have never seen anything like it in this country. And with the media, it's absolute crickets. I mean, Trump, 800 people a day were trying to get into the country. We were sending the majority of them back. Here under Biden, 6,000 a day. 6,000 a day. We cannot do this as a country. We cannot continue to allow these people in. I mean, the children are suffering. They're starving. They're sleeping on floors. They called Trump evil. I mean, what Biden's doing right now is criminal to these poor young children. Hey, Walt Weekly, welcome to the show. So, Eric, what do you think about this, man? I know you follow this stuff. What do you think about what's going on at the border right now? I mean, to me, it's just crazy, criminal that the media is reporting on this, really,
Well, and these are the same Democrats who says walls don't work, but they've decided, that the wall at the Mexican-U.S. border, isn't needed, but they could put like a wall and fence around the U.S. Capitol and the White House, and when really the White House and the U.S. Capitol are the people's house.
They are. I mean,
welcome, old man.
Hey, welcome, old man. Thanks for coming in. Hey, Glenn, thanks for stopping by, brother. But yeah, we're talking about what's going on at the border. I mean, literally 6,000 people a day trying to get in. Okay. And, again, we've got numerous executive orders that Biden's passed since he's been in. We've bombed Syria. We have kids in containers who are starving and sleeping on the floor. There's really no COVID plan. He's taking credits for the vaccines that Trump actually created. And I will say that it looks like they're trying to get more shots out there, which is a good thing. And I am happy that's happening. So you can give Biden a little bit of credit for that and his administration. The $1.9 trillion stimulus package, has anyone really looked into that to see what's in it?
It's mostly pork barrel spending because it's awesome. Basically payoffs.
Well, I mean, did you see? I mean, the one that really sticks out to me, again, we've got the biggest challenge our country has faced in many, many years. And people are struggling. They don't have money. We pay our taxes. So some of the people in this country are getting $1,400, a one-time check. All right. Now, if they had taken the entire $1.9 trillion and given that out literally to every American in the country, each person would have gotten roughly $6,000. And I'm talking parents and children of all income brackets. So if you think about my family alone, okay, I'm getting nothing under the current plan, and I'm okay with that. I really am. We don't need the $1,400. If it goes somewhere else, I'm fine with that. I don't really care. But yeah, under the plan that that we're talking about, if we'd sent all that money back to the people, that would have given my family $36,000. 6 people in my family times $6,000. That's $36,000 that would have gone to my family. Now, for me, what would I have done with that money? I guess there's a chance I would have put it in the stock market. I would have invested it. But realistically, when some money like that is dropped in my lap, my wife and I have been responsible. We've already saved money. So I would probably maybe renovate some bathrooms, do some work on my house, do something, maybe put a new roof on my house.
Car repairs.
Right. And what does that do? It brings jobs. It gives money out to the economy where we all need it. So instead of giving all that money back to families, we are sending literally, I think it was $80 billion to the cities of San Francisco. And also, what's Schumer's city? He's in New York.
Yeah, he's like New York State. So I don't know if it's New York City or Buffalo or Syracuse or Albany or Rochester.
A majority of that money is now going back to bail out.
A blue state bailout.
Yeah, it's going to bail out union pension funds. It's going to blue states that are in dire straits because of COVID. And I mean, again, that is not what this was meant to be. This is supposed to be a bailout for American people. $1,400. I mean, Eric, you're a guy that lives on a fixed income. I mean, $1,400 will help you, but is it going to make like a significant difference in your life?
Most likely not. But the only thing that my stimulus check would be good for is paying up car insurance all the way till August, and then me also looking into maybe getting my car serviced.
Now, what would you have done if you had gotten $6,000? Now, if we'd given all the money out to the people instead of sending it to museums and pension funds and blue states who are, bankrupt, what would you have done with the full $6,000 that you could have gotten in the stimulus plan if they'd sent it to the people?
I know, but besides catching up bills and stuff, like I know donating a little bit to charity, of course, and then stocking up on household necessities. And
Doss, I'm down with that. I like that idea. I'm not gonna. I'll repeat it. What the hell? Doss came into the chat and said hookers and blow. All right, that's cool. Hey, at least you're giving back to the community if you go in that direction. Hey, listen, I found the list. Let me run down this list really quickly of the things that this money is going to. So you could have sent $6,000 to every person, man, woman, child in this country. Instead, the 1.9 trillion, which is a hell of a lot of money, 58 billion is going to the pension plans for unions and states. 195 billion to state governments. 195 billion to state governments. Most of those blue. 155 billion to local governments, territories, and tribes. So I guess that money is maybe going to Native Americans. I don't have a problem with that, but is that needed during COVID? I don't know. Maybe not. Paid COVID leave for federal employees, $400 million. Now, these are the ones that get me. $500 million for museums and Native American language preservation. I mean, we're in a global crisis. We keep hearing about it over and over and over again from our leaders that we're in the middle of a pandemic, that, the economy's never been this bad. People are out of work. Children are starving. $500 million to museums and to preserve Native American language. I mean, I get that that's important, but I mean, should this bailout be going to that? In my opinion, no. 50 million to Planned Parenthood. Now, that's a tough one. Planned Parenthood, I know there are a lot of people in this country that do not support abortion. I would not say that I'm 100% that person. I don't like the idea of abortion. I do think it's ending the life of a baby. I do understand that women feel like it's their body, it's their choice, and if something happens where their life is in danger, maybe they've been raped, whatever, they should have the opportunity to end a pregnancy if they need be. So this one is a kind of a mixed one for me. But the problem I have is $50 million in the bailout going to Planned Parenthood, because then if I'm a guy that's a Christian, if I'm a guy that has deep deep-seated belief against abortion, then I am being forced to send my tax money to support something that I think is a sin. And there are a lot of people in this country that are religious people that do not believe in that. And now I've got two of them up here right now, Eric and Cummings. I know you're both, very religious guys. How do you feel about your tax money going to Planned Parenthood? Do you agree with that?
Okay, we know that Planned Parenthood is a population control entity. But the only thing I've oftentimes say is instead that the money that they're sending to Planned Parenthood, they ought to be bailing out Social Security and Medicare instead, because you got disabled folks and retirees who depend on that.
No doubt. And Cummings,
especially if it's people who have worked decades in the workforce, or people who, to no fault of their own, can never work another day in their lives again.
I see, Mr. A. I see a comment, and I agree with you. Planned Parenthood is not just abortions. They do other things for pregnant women.
That's not true.
Okay, go ahead, Jeremy.
That's not true. Call your local Planned Parenthood and ask them for an ultrasound. They'll tell you they don't do that. They only do abortions. John, you can actually look the YouTube video up where a woman actually called every Planned Parenthood in the United States, and they do nothing for prenatal care. They will tell you on the phone all they do is abortions.
And, for me, like I said earlier, this is not a debate about whether or not abortion is right. It isn't a debate. For me, I'm kind of mixed on how I feel about it. I know a lot of people are very much against it. Some people are completely pro-choice. I just don't think the bailout money should be going to Planned Parenthood. I don't think it's right to force money out of people's paychecks, people that don't believe in abortion, to force their hard-earned tax money going in that direction. So let me run down the rest of this list, and then we're going to chat a little bit. So $50 million to Planned Parenthood. Now, how about this one? $122 billion to energy and commerce. I don't know what that means. Is that windmills? Is that, solar panels? I mean, to energy and commerce. Who knows where that money's going? That money could be going to China. That money could be going anywhere. $90 billion in transportation and infrastructure. Examples are like Amtrak and things like that. Now, I get that if you go to Europe, traveling in a train is awesome. I've done it. I've been to Germany. I've been to France. I've been to the Netherlands. There is nothing like getting on a train in Europe and going over 200 miles an hour to your destination. The trains are beautiful. They're comfortable. It's an amazing way to travel. That doesn't really work in the United States. We have like an Excella express train here on the East Coast, and there are a few points during the trip where the train may get up to 100 miles an hour, but there's so many people and the population is so dense that it's just a flop. No one pays the money for it. You can fly from Boston to New York in like 45 minutes, or you can drive in 3.5 hours. There's no point in taking a train. So they have $90 billion go for transportation, which will basically be Amtrak and things like that. Do we need to invest that kind of money in train systems right now? I don't think so. $10 billion to foreign affairs. How about this? $1 billion to science, space, and technology. I love thinking about outer space. I love thinking about what's out there. I believe in aliens. I'm all for space travel. I would love to see us land on Mars before I'm dead. But again, during COVID, do we need to spend $1 billion out of this $1.9 trillion stimulus on science, space, and technology? And again, here's another one, very vague, but $1 billion on national resources. What does that even mean? What does that even mean? $1 billion on national resources. And then we're talking about, here we go, $50 million on environmental justice. So that's one that's kind of crazy. Now, before we get to Jeremy and Eric, and we start talking, because we're going to debate guns and the Second Amendment, and I want to talk about that and have like an important conversation about this. Yesterday, I was driving in my town, driving along, and you know how it is when you come upon a car where you have a Democrat or a liberal. They're usually they're usually driving a Prius. They're usually driving one of those cars where you're supposedly care about the environment. Hey, Caps, what's up, man? And so I'm following this Honda Odyssey minivan. It's got a big bumper sticker on the back, basically saying, our planet is dying. Make sure you do what you can for the environment. And there were several like bumper stickers on the back of this minivan. And for me, cool. You care about the environment. I do too. You post it on the back of your car. I have no problem with that. It's a free country. Do what you want to do. But the thing that was funny, this Honda Odyssey literally had black smoke pouring out of the exhaust pipe. This thing was emitting more smoke up into the atmosphere than I've seen out of any car in the last like 5 years. thick black smoke. It was in a cloud around the vehicle. I was choking being in the car behind it. And this guy's got the bumper sticker on the back of his car saying basically save the planet. It's like, dude, have you taken a look at your own exhaust system? You need to get it in for some service because you're poisoning me and I'm behind you. Maybe he knew I was a Trump supporter, so he has like a button he can flip inside that minivan to kind of like choke me out being behind him. I don't know, but
I'm surprised he doesn't have a bumper sticker on the back of the van that would say something along the lines of Donald Trump does not represent our values from when Trump was in office.
Could be. I've seen those. What he probably has that button inside the minivan. If he sees someone behind him, you look like a Biden supporter, you flip it down, you get clean air. Clean air. It's probably even like a hybrid vehicle. You get the nice clean air. If he sees
I don't think they would want a blown head gasket either, because that antifreeze coolant smell is not, and you can not only smell it, but you can also taste it.
Yes, Caps, he is a child sniffer. No damn doubt about it. But the thing about Biden, he's not just a child sniffer. He's equal opportunity. He sniffs older women. He sniffs middle-aged women. He's an equal opportunity sniffer, and that's one of the things we love about Joe Biden. I mean, the man can't form a coherent sentence, but he is one hell of a sniffer, and I give him credit on that. So, all right, Eric and Cummings, the whole purpose of my show, I had to postpone this show once. I had stuff come up for work. And I kind of forgot when I scheduled this, it was St. Paddy's Day. So I started off talking about St. Patrick's Day and some of the traditions in Boston, drinking Guinness and all that good stuff, which I love to do. Unfortunately, in Boston, 2 years in a row, we've had our St. Patrick's Day parade shut down. Bars open at 8:00 in the morning in Boston, and we drink all day long, and it's a blast. So as I said earlier, before we get into the gun debate, is if you want to have fun next year, book your trip to Boston now for St. Patrick's Day next year. COVID's going to be over. Just be ready. Check your liver at the door. People in Boston can drink. Come on up and join me. We'll hit some Irish pubs in Boston, and we will have a blast. Just be ready that you're going to be ready to pass out probably by noontime, by the way things go when you're in Boston for St. Paddy's Day. But all right, let's get to the meat of this. I've been wanting to talk about this for a while. It's driving me crazy. It scares me in this country. We're seeing a lot of negative things happening. I don't know how the Biden people, if there really are any, feel about what's going on in this country right now, but we're seeing the government just take over. We have a phantom president. This guy is not really running this country. We've got someone behind the scenes that's making all the decisions, all the executive orders, big tax increase coming, the stimulus plan, which was all pork to other places. Now they're coming after the Second Amendment. We knew this was going to happen. If you are a gun owner in this country, we've already seen the First Amendment go away. They're canceling everything left and right. And I've talked about that quite a bit, where it amazes me that we can't read a Dr. Seuss book, but we can listen to Cardi B sing about her vagina and see her hump Megan the Stallion on the Grammys. We can watch that. Our children can watch that crap, but we can't read Dr. Seuss, and we can't watch Paw Patrol because those things are offensive. So First Amendment's gone. Coca-Cola has diversity training, teaching us to be less white. We are losing our First Amendment rights every day. Now they're coming after the guns. I'm a gun owner. I just joined the NRA. I've got 3 guns. I'm probably going to buy another one because I think in a matter of time, they're going to take away my ability to purchase firearms going forward. And I've heard the argument over and over and over again. Why do you need an AK-47? Why do you need something with 30 rounds in a clip? Well, I'll tell you why. It's not for defending my house. If someone breaks into my house, my 44 Magnum is going to be just fine. My 357 Magnum is going to be just fine. My 9mm will probably take care of that one person coming into our house. But if you read the Second Amendment in the Constitution, it basically says the reason why we have the right to bear arms and have militias is to protect ourselves from a government who is trying to basically take away our freedoms. And if they start taking away our right to carry, weapons of war, then we are no longer going to be able to defend ourselves from our own government. And I never thought in my lifetime I would ever say this, but I do think we're getting to the point in society where we may be having some type of situation where we're going to have to defend ourselves against our tyrannical government right now.
It's going to be a massive revolt like you wouldn't believe.
I mean, it is. So Cummings, I know you have strong feelings on this, so I just want to let you go for a bit and tell us how you feel, and then we'll go to Eric. So Cummings, what do you think? I mean, this bill right now is a major assault on our Second Amendment rights.
No, it completely ends your Second Amendment rights. It would force someone like me to go to, like, I'm a major gun owner, okay? I own so many guns. One time the federal government sent me a letter and said, hey, watch it. Because after you buy so many, they label you as an arms dealer, right? You have to have a license. And let me tell you something. I buy a lot of guns. I see a lot of guns all the time. I deal with guns. I've got guns in my house. And the reason I have so many guns, people say, oh, it's because you're scared. No, listen, I really do have a love for firearms. Like, I just like them. I like to shoot them. I like to clean them. I like to fix them. And people say, why do you need an AR-15? Well, an AR-15, if you're a woman, let's just be honest here. If you're a woman and you need a high-powered rifle, or a disabled person, let's put it this way. A disabled person going hunting in a wheelchair, they can't really shoot a 30-06. But if you take a disabled person out and you take them hunting with an AR-15, they can shoot the AR-15 because of the low recoil. But the people say AR-15 and they get you confused because a lot of you think that it stands for assault rifle. It doesn't stand for assault rifle. It was made by the Armalite company back in, I think, the 1970s or something like that. The Armalite company, they called it the Armalite rifle. And they called it that for a reason because it was light. It was, most of your ARs are fairly light guns, and yeah, you can defend yourself against a tyrannical government with an AR-15, with an AK-47, with a, whatever gun you have. Like right now, if I want one, they're $10,000. I don't have one. I'd love to have one, but I'm not going to spend $10,000 to get one. You can go buy the Barrett 50 caliber right now for $10,000. Under this, and that's the same gun. That's the same gun that the government uses for their snipers in the Middle East. It's the Barrett 50 caliber. Under this plan right now, I have access. If I've got $10,500, I think it's $10,500, and I want to spend it, I can go to a store that sells the Barrett 50 caliber, give them the $10,500 plus whatever the taxes will be, and that day walk out with a Barrett 50 caliber. Under this plan, I cannot defend myself against a tyrannical government. I cannot defend myself against if they want to come in here and listen, people, just being honest, like John said, his 9mm is .357, his 44 Magnum. Listen, I've got those guns too. They're great for home defense. The 44 Magnum, you can blow a hole through a refrigerator with a thing. But when it comes to if you have the United Nations who was to come in here and decide that they were going to take over or something like that, you got some people like me. I don't want to die for this place. I don't want to die for this. I want to live my life. I want to live in America we were supposed to have, where we all have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I don't want to die for this place. But I'm not going to live under a communist regime, and that's what the Biden regime is. It's a communist regime, and I'm not going to live that way. So if they try to take away our Second Amendment rights, there's a saying here in the Old South, and it's all throughout the country. If you want my guns, you're going to have to pry them from my cold, dead hands. And there's a reason that we all believe that, and none of us wants to die for this. None of us want to. But by God, if George Washington was around today, ladies and gentlemen, trust me, there'd be bodies in the streets right now. They would not put up with some of the, and I'm not advocating war or anything like that. I think it's stupid that we would even have this discussion. I would think that it was so stupid that the Democrats on the other side of the aisle, I think they're so stupid to have this position where they're blatantly going against the Constitution. The Constitution gives us this right. It's not, and the reason they gave us this right was because Benjamin Franklin said, you know what Benjamin Franklin said after America was settled and they won they won their independence and the Constitution was ratified by Congress and everything was set up. You know what Benjamin Franklin said? He said, "You have a republic. Now let's see if you can keep it."
It's true. It's true. And that's what we're seeing right now. We are seeing an all-out attack on our freedoms. And this has been going on for years. And I know that people have looked at me over the years. Like my wife for a while thought I was crazy. The whole thing years ago, I've talked about this before, when the government was telling us we could no longer say Merry Christmas. Okay? I get it. Not everybody celebrates Christmas. Some people celebrate Hanukkah. Some people celebrate Kwanzaa. Some people don't celebrate anything. I get it. And that's cool. That's good. It's chill. You don't have to celebrate the same things that I celebrate. Now, for me, though, when I live in a free country, I don't want my government telling me it's politically incorrect to wish somebody a Merry Christmas because you might offend somebody. For me, if someone comes up to me and wishes me a Happy Hanukkah, awesome. Happy Hanukkah right back at you. I'm not Jewish. That doesn't offend me at all. But when people start infringing on your rights of speech, they call it political correctness. Political correctness is a gateway to censorship. That's exactly what it is. So when they start having you back on your heels all the time, you can't say this, you can't say that, you can't think like this. And we're being hit with this stuff all the time. Now, for me, I get it. You don't want to come out and throw racial slurs at people. You don't want to, give people a hard time about their sexuality, whatever. And I don't do that. But you can't tell me in a free country that I do not have the freedom of speech. It is written into our Constitution by the founders of this country. And when you have a group like we have now, and this group of Democrats, I don't even know if they're really Democrats anymore. They're socialists, they're communists, whatever they are. When they're taking away your freedom of speech, they are attacking Americans, good law-abiding Americans. They're trying to take away your right to bear arms when that, again, was written in the Constitution for the sole purpose of us protecting ourselves from a government that's out of control. They are trying to slowly take away our rights so they can then do whatever the hell they want to do. And what happened on January 6th, that scared them a little bit because for whoever was responsible that day, I don't really believe it was Trump's people. I'm sure some of them may have been. I saw police officers welcoming people into the Capitol building. They weren't barging into the doors and breaking in. And when that happened, that scared some of these people. And they are looking to take away our rights. And if they win and take away our gun rights, then we are in trouble as a country. And some of you out there may not agree with me. You may not. I hear it all the time, And at one point, when I was a Democrat, yes, I was, believe it or not, I voted for Bill Clinton twice. I wrote a letter once to Bill Clinton. He actually wrote me back. I've got it in my safe. I kept it. I'm sure it was a form letter that he sent back. But I was asking about gun control. And he wrote back saying they were trying to control guns. But he didn't even mention the Second Amendment in the letter that he wrote back to me. But if we start losing our right to bear arms, then we're in trouble as a country. And honestly, I don't know what's going to stop these people from doing it right now. I mean, they are out of control as to what they're doing. But to blame Joe Biden is almost kind of like pointing the finger in the wrong direction, because that man, bless his soul, does not know what he's saying. The man has dementia. He's got a cognitive delay. He has got issues. He's 78 years old. And again, I'm going to talk tomorrow a little bit about how this man actually got 81 million votes. I'm not sure in what world any of us believe that actually happened when the man lived in his basement campaigning for a year and couldn't get more than 20 people at one of his rallies. Of course, they blamed it on COVID. But I mean, this man is not running this country. He gave one speech, and in that speech, I was so thankful. That he told me that maybe if you jump through all the hoops I'm telling you to jump through, and you keep that face diaper on, and you take that vaccine that was never actually passed, by the different powers that be, they're basically, it's being used because we're in a crisis. So we don't really know what the long-term ramifications of this actual shot is. But if you jump through all these different hoops, then maybe by the 4th of July, you might be able to have a small cookout in your backyard. You know what, Joe, with all due respect, fuck you. Fuck you. If I want to have a cookout in my backyard, if I want to have a party in my yard and invite neighbors, it is my choice as an American to do that. And you don't have the right to tell me when and where I can have a barbecue, when and where I can have a party, and who I can have at my house. This is still a free country. It is still a free country, and we need people to start waking up. We need to have people on the left start waking up and realizing that this Democratic Party is against America. They are against freedom. I mean, what do we have to celebrate so far? Bombing Syria, $3 gas prices. I mean, they lied and told you they were going to give you $2,000. They're giving you $1,400. But if they had used the entire stimulus bill to go back to the people, every person in this country, no matter what they made, would have made $6,000 each. But instead, they're giving it to blue states, pension funds. They're trying to take away your gun rights. They're taking away your right to speak freely. This is not America. This is not America. And what did they do? What did they do when the whole thing on January 6th happened? Look at Trump supporters, okay? Look at Trump supporters. They're white, a lot of them, not all of them. Trump has a growing presence with African Americans and Hispanic Americans, but the majority of Trump supporters are white. They fly the flag. Many of them serve their country. They are proud to be Americans. And now this administration has vilified these group of people as being anti-American terrorists. Think about that. Think about that when you go to sleep tonight. That is what your government is doing to the American people right now. You know, you're right. There it is. They're woke, right? Everyone's woke. That's the big thing right now. But at least we got Kamala Harris coming to the rescue, right? We've got her coming in because I'm sure Biden's not going to last another 3 months. He's going to be on camera and he's going to shit himself, and they're going to have to probably turn everything over to Kamala Harris at that point. But I don't know. I need to take a breath. Go ahead, guys.
If you were watching Joe Biden's speech the other night, he mispronounced Kamala Harris's last name, but I'm just waiting for the day he slips up and calls her Camel Toe or another unflattering name.
Oh, Allie Oakley. I love the people that were there. I love the patriots that were there. And if you were there, and if the other people that were there are listening to my show, you are patriots. The government set you up. And when I say the government, the left, they set you up. I saw the police welcoming people in to the State House. Come on in, guys. Welcome.
And there's video evidence to prove that. And they're going to basically call the video evidence a lie.
Well, I almost went with my children. I wanted to bring them to experience history. And if I'd been in the front of that line,
I did too.
And I'm standing there and the police said, hey, come on in, I would have gone in. I wouldn't have thought anything of it. I wouldn't have thought I was breaking the law. If the authorities were welcoming me in the front door, I would have gone in. They showed videos inside of people walking orderly between the turnstiles inside the State House. So the people that came there were absolutely patriots. They are my people. They are Donald Trump's people. They are Cummings people. They are Eric's people. And they are Americans that are proud of this country and love this country. They are not out looking to destroy this country like the Democrats and the left are doing. And let's not forget who the Democrats really are. We've talked about this for many, many shows. Go back and watch the movie Lincoln. And people like to try to tell you, well, the parties have shifted since then. No, they haven't. They have not. The Republican Party was developed to basically fight against slavery and to end slavery.
Yep.
The Democrats, if you look at the vote, all the Democrats voted back in the 1860s with Lincoln. They voted against him. They wanted to retain slavery.
Yep.
They wanted to retain it. The Republicans, the right, did not believe in slavery. They wanted to end it.
Yep.
Fast forward to where we are today, slavery still exists. The African Americans, the poor Hispanics, and the whites in this country no longer have chains on. Can't have chains anymore. It's 2021. We're woke. We're woke now. What you have, though, now in 2021 is you have welfare, you have Section 8, you have food stamps, you have an inability to get a good education and an inability to get a good job that helps support your family. And what do you get for that welfare? What do you get for that Section 8? What do you get for the food stamps? You get the ability to vote for the Democrats to keep them in office, because if you don't, you lose your benefits. And what are you going to do if you lose your benefits because you haven't been trained in school as to how to get a job? Right? That's what the Republicans want. They want you to get out. They want you to get educated. They want you to get a job. Trump was bringing jobs into the inner cities. You had a lot of people coming out saying things had never been better than under the Trump administration, where manufacturing jobs were coming back to this country. Biden's ending that. It's gone. Because they want people reliant and dependent on the government. That has always been the platform of the left. And it amazes me how people fall for it. They fall for it and they believe it. And they think that the left really cares about them. They don't. They don't. They rely on you. It's the same reason why Joe Biden and his administration are letting 6,000 people a day cross the border. Do you think they care about those people? Do you think they value those people? They are busing them into their sanctuary cities. And guess what they have? A new wave of people on welfare, food stamps, and Section 8 that vote Democrat to keep their benefits. That's how they develop their voter base. And that is how the Democrats will retain power and continue to take away your rights. So go ahead, guys. I'm all ramped up today. So go.
No, you're good, man. You're on point. I mean, it's everything you just said was true. I mean, the reason Democrats push abortion the way they do, and there's a reason. If you go look at where they put Planned Parenthood facilities, it's in predominantly black neighborhoods. And the reason they do that is because they promote promiscuous lifestyles. Then they promote welfare, and they want these people to stay on welfare, and then and food stamps and all these things. But then they turn around and they kill their base off with the abortion. So how do they replace that? They take these kids from off the southern border who are coming from third world countries like Guatemala, Honduras, and now even Venezuela. Some people, El Salvador, they're taking these people, they're bringing them up here. They lived under dictators down there. They don't know the difference. They just hear that it's better here. And so they promise them all this stuff, and then they bring them here, and then they put them on food stamps, welfare. And the next thing you know, these kids that grew up on this, and now they're in the system here. Well, where do they go? They go to inner city schools. They predominantly go to Los Angeles. They go to New York, Democrat-run states, Democrat-run cities, and they put them in these urban areas. They put them in the public school systems there, which are broken, and then they turn around, and these kids have no training. They have no hope. They have no chance at the better life that they were promised, because it was all just a lie. There's no American dream, people. It's just a big American nightmare.
No, it's absolutely true. It is a nightmare. And I've seen a lot of educators coming out. And let me be clear on how I stand about educators. Teachers are amazing. They do what they do with the least possible amount of resources. And I've seen a lot of school districts and teachers coming out saying that they need equity amongst their schools. And this is the truth. This is the truth. You look at a lot of the schools in this country, when you go into the inner city, they're not getting the same type of funding as you would see in some of the other schools that maybe are in the suburbs. And why is that? I mean, they're in democratically run cities, so why aren't the Democrats funding money towards these schools so these children can actually get education so they can maybe break out of their cycle of poverty? I don't think they want them to break out of it. I don't think they want them to do it. And you're right with, the culture. I saw the interview with Candace Owens last night. I love her. I think she's a brilliant young woman. I'd love to see her run for office someday. She was talking about Cardi B and basically saying Cardi B isn't the entire problem, but she's one of the cancer cells in the cancer culture we have in this country. And she is. When you have people like that are getting up on stage, they're half naked at the Grammys, they are singing songs with disgusting lyrics. I know I sound like an old man, but the bottom line is when they're up doing that, I mean, it's not me that it affects. I don't give a shit what she has to say, but the young kids that listen to her songs and sing her songs, she is a role model. She is a role model. And unfortunately, they are creating that culture within their own people of, that is the way to live your life. And it really isn't. I mean, our society's got a lot of problems. They really do. And you're right, Eric. They don't want a society capable of critical thinking. They're all about, keeping the masses ignorant. And that is what we're dealing with in this country, because we want the masses ignorant. And for the few people that are truly woke and understand what's going on, people think we're crazy. People think we're nuts because they sit back. They believe what CNN tells them. They believe what they hear on television. They believe all that garbage all the time that they're hearing from all the media outlets, because I remember I had a conversation. I was a big brother.
Well, the fake news to them is basically gospel for those who are not truly woke. And I think and I guess they believe ignorance is bliss, but Donald Trump believes ignorance is deadly. Remember that.
It is. I mean, as I was going to say, I was a big brother in the Big Brother program. I was so proud of my little brother. He actually wrote me and told me he'd listened to a couple of my shows. I was really happy to hear that. He's now, I think, in his mid to late 20s. I started with him when he was 9 years old. Good boy. He's got an older brother also. Just a young man I'm very proud of, and he's like another son to me. But I remember I sat down one time and I was talking to his mother, wonderful woman. She did everything she could to raise this young man and his brother and did a really good job. Unfortunately, we lost her recently. She passed away. But I remember having a conversation with her when my little brother was very young. And when I explained to her the different, networks, CNN, MSNBC, and Fox, and how they were all had different political backings and things like that. She was blown away. She couldn't believe it. She doubted me. She's like, there's no way, John, when the news reports the news, they're telling you what the news is. And I'm like, they don't. It depends on what you're watching. I mean, CNN is left. MSNBC is far left. The majority of your local news stations, ABC, NBC, CBS, they're left. You have Fox that used to be way right and has kind of come back more to a centrist position over the last couple of years. And then you've got Newsmax now and obviously some of the other publications like The Guardian and things like that are more right. But if you think that you're receiving accurate and fair news really from any of these programs, you're not. You need to research yourself. You need to figure out what the truth is. You need to think. Go ahead.
Well, and I will also bring up another name, like the PBS NewsHour. That news program on PBS hasn't been the same since, Robin McNeil and Jim Lauer left that show, and God rest Jim Lauer's soul, because that show has basically become a shell of its former self.
They fired the head of PBS, right?
Yeah, you've talked about that on your show as well, I believe.
Yeah, because he wanted to throw Molotov cocktails at the White House if Trump won.
And Project Veritas exposed that.
Okay, so he was fired. Now let's talk about what we've talked about a lot of different things. How about Como? All right, now let's talk about that whole situation. Now let me ask you, if Como was, say, DeSantis down in Florida, and 7 or 8 women, okay, Trump was president, or even Biden being president, 7 or 8 women came out and accused him of sexual harassment. Okay, what would be happening in the media right now if DeSantis in Florida was accused of sexual harassment? Would they be quiet, or would it be the top story on every newspaper, every TV station, and every media outlet in the country? What do you guys think?
They'd be crucifying him right now.
Crucifying him, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
he would be a serial rapist. It's just like Kavanaugh. But let me tell you something, John, before I got to run because these storms are getting ready to fire back up. Kavanaugh, this is why I don't feel bad for Kavanaugh this time. Because if you look at the election case, only 2 of the Supreme Court justices sat there and said, yes, we have to hear this. We have to see their evidence. We should do this because this is for the good of the country if we do this. Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, and Amy Coney Barrett, they all sat back and they all played into the hands of, well, if this doesn't turn out in Trump's favor, Biden said he's going to pack the court. So what happened is those schmucks who sat there got scared. Instead of doing the right thing and doing what the Supreme Court was intended to do by the founders, instead of doing their job, they sat back with the liberal justices who threatened them and told them, said, hey, if we hear this case, then what's going to happen is Biden's going to pack the court. So I don't feel bad for Kavanaugh this time. I don't really care if they do impeach him. I mean, he's worthless up there on the court anyway. He's voted with the liberal section of the court the past 4 times that they voted on a major issue. It's not like he's been there actually doing the work based on the Constitution. It seems like somebody, because Kavanaugh, the liberals are talking about, oh, let's see who paid off his debt. Because he had a lot of debt. This guy had a lot of debt. I think if we went in there and we found the Open Society Foundation paid off his debt, everything would be okay with them. Because the Open Society Foundation is George Soros. But Myanmar, the country that said that the president committed election fraud and they had a military takeover, the military actually seized the bank accounts of the Open Society Foundation and George Soros that he had in their country last night.
There's no doubt they cheated. They cheated. There is no way that Joe Biden, the man with dementia, the man that can't form a sentence, there's no way on God's green earth that man got 81 million votes. There's no way. It's impossible. He did not get more votes than Trump. He did not get more votes than Obama. He did not get more votes than Hillary Clinton, than Ronald Reagan, than Bill Clinton. There is no way in hell that man pulled out 81 million votes.
It didn't happen.
Anyone that believes it, you are crazy. My wife voted for Biden. broke my heart. She voted for Biden, but she point blank says, of course they cheated. And a lot of the people that she works with, who are Democrats, also believe that they cheated. And again, if we're living in a country where we just tolerate cheating, and again, if the Republicans cheated, then they should be called out and they should be thrown out of office. We cannot have our elections being cheated on. And if that happens, our country isn't worth a pile of dog shit. Unfortunately, it just is not. And our election process is pointless if we allow cheating.
I got to run, guys. I enjoyed it.
I got to go to in a few minutes. So go ahead.
I will say this about like Coney Barrett and Kavanaugh and Gorsuch, being appointed to the court by Trump. That wasn't just so much Trump wanting them there. That was really McConnell wanting them there. And we know McConnell is, is dirty. And,
is anyone
and in one of our free think meetings recently, I think one of my friends, Ray, brought up that I think Republicans and Democrats are frightened that they're going to review another case, but I'm not sure what it is. I would have to ask them. But I think another case that probably needs to be looked at again is that controversial Citizens United case from January of 2010.
Yep. Hey, has anyone seen that the guy on TikTok? I'm sure there's some TikTok people out there. The young guy that does impressions of McConnell. Oh my friggin' God. I can't remember his name. I'll have to remember. But the guy, literally, he's like a young guy, probably 25 years old. And he puts the glasses on. He makes his chin look like McConnell. His voice is like a carbon copy of McConnell. It is hysterical. So if you haven't seen it, try to look in your feed for this guy. If I can remember who it is, I'll put it on my Twitter feed. I'm sure he'll pop up at some point. I'll remember his name. But listen, I want to say a couple things before I wrap up this big boy. I'm going to end the song with another classic Irish tune for St. Patrick's Day today. Remember now, everybody, next Wednesday, this is a big one. We had to change the time, Eric. But next Wednesday, I'm going to have Zuzu from It's a Wonderful Life on my show for an interview. Her name is Caroline. She's 80 years old. She was Jimmy Stewart's youngest daughter in the iconic Christmas classic, It's a Wonderful Life. I got in touch with her, and she's coming on to talk about her memories. Thank you, old man. I appreciate that. I respect the heck out of your show, so thank you. But she's going to be coming on with me next Wednesday, 7 o'clock Eastern time. So if you're out in California or the West Coast, that'll be 4 o'clock. We're gonna have an hour with her talking about what it was like to be in It's a Wonderful Life, talking about her memories of Jimmy Stewart, George Bailey, and the whole thing. And I'm so excited because It's a Wonderful Life. I actually watched that movie, I think, for the first time in my 20s when I was going through a very difficult time in my life. And I remember the scene of George Bailey being at the bar, after he was accused of stealing the money and, he was going to jail and he was drinking and he was crying. I remember I was at a very vulnerable point in my life when I watched that movie, and that movie literally spoke to me. It spoke to me. I remember his character. And that's a movie now that I do not miss when it's on television every year at Christmas time. If you haven't seen It's a Wonderful Life, I know it's 1946. It's black and white. It's an older movie. It is an amazing movie. And literally, the girl that uttered the most popular line in the movie is going to be on my show next Wednesday night.
Oh, yes.
Remember, teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings. She's going to be on with me next Wednesday, 7 o'clock. She's 80 years old. She sells like a line of merchandise. She has a cookbook. She seems like a really nice lady. She's going to be calling in next Wednesday, 7 o'clock Eastern time. So make sure you all join me. That's East Coast time. And I'm going to ask her about that. I'm going to ask her about Mr. Potter, if she remembers him. I'm going to ask her about Clarence. I want to hear if she remembers, some of the actors. Were they nice people? What were they like? And, again, she was 6 when she's in the movie, so I don't know what her memories are going to be like, but hopefully we get some good stories out of her. She did say to me when I did go back and forth with email, as she remembered Jimmy Stewart as being a very nice man on set. So that's pretty cool to think about. He was obviously a Hollywood legend, and can't wait for that show. So hopefully you guys can help me spread the word, get the word out there, so we have like a full live cast for her. Sadly, she's going to be calling in on the phone, so she won't be able to see everybody. But Eric, I'll have you call in, and we'll have a question session for her at the end. So Eric,
and then we know other friends like Chris and and Jeremy are definitely invited to that show.
Absolutely, everyone's invited. Then,
and I'm sure old man Dina Joe will probably show up for it too.
It's going to be a good show. I'm excited for that. So why don't you run off some of the shows, and then I'm going to end the show soon for St. Patrick's Day. So go ahead.
And of course, we'd like to, of course, wish.
Play in the background while you talk.
I was also just going to speak as is like, once again, our friend Chris, aka the Forgotten Tunes Music Show, we're wishing you a very happy birthday once again, and we certainly encourage people to check out his show later on this evening. But a little bit after 11:30 p.m. Eastern time, this is going to be his birthday show. Otherwise, be on the lookout today at 3 p.m. Eastern time for Frankie D's Crib, followed around 4 and 5 p.m. Eastern by the Wednesday edition of Mr. Clean Music Show with Robert, another very good friend of the show. And I think since Cummings will not be doing a show today, he'll be back tomorrow, between 6 and 7 p.m. Eastern time. So definitely be on the lookout for him. Check Billy's Not Your Cup of Tea.
Some tough weather for Cummings.
That is true. 8 p.m. Eastern time, Chuck and Billy's Not Your Cup of Tea, should they be on. The Wednesday edition of the Slightly Serious Show at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, as well as the Wacky Wednesday edition of Trice Talk at 11 p.m. Eastern, and then Chit Chat with the Old Man tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. And come the weekend, David's Mysteries of the Paranormal, as well as the Old Man's Friday and Sunday music shows, Lyrical Laxatives, the It's Doomsday podcast, and the Turfy Show, if anybody hasn't checked out that hot new show. And a shout out to other podcast friends who have not been doing Podbean shows in a while. Hopefully they come back soon, like Ralph and the Just Another Day in Paradise and Almost Everything and the Raw Report and a couple others. But otherwise, we look forward to doing this show again soon, John.
Love you all. Talk to you soon. Take care now. Enjoy the rest of Irish Eyes Are Singing. Here we go.
In Ireland,
love you and God bless you. We'll see you next time.
So glorious and grand, where nature has lavished its bounty. It's the orchard of Erin's green land. I love its cathedrals and city, once founded by Patrick, so true, and it bears in the heart of its bosom the ashes of Brian Boru. It's my own Irish home, far across the foam, although I've often left it in foreign lands to roam. No matter where I wander, through cities near or far, my heart's at home in old Ireland, in the county of Armagh. When Irish eyes are smiling, sure it's like a morning spring. In the lilt of Irish laughter, you can hear the angels sing. When Irish hearts are happy, all the world seems bright and gay. And when Irish eyes are smiling, should they steal your heart away? And when Irish eyes are smiling, should they steal your heart away?
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Love you all. Take care now.